Is liquid carbon like Excel poppycock? What is poppycock? Merriam-Webster defines it as empty talk or writing. Nonsense. The Urban Dictionary defines it as 1. A caramelized popcorn treat, 2. Utter bullshit, or 3. A penis that makes popping noises. This is Chung from the Water Box, and let's just jump into it. Now, obviously, this is touted as liquid carbon, and this is something that we could supplement to our plants to provide them carbon or a substitute for CO2. And this has been out in the market for a while now. But does it actually work? Let me go over some of the pros and cons of this, and you decide for yourself, because I could only just give you the facts that I know and let you decide for yourself. And for this video, I also polled the community, so we'll have a lot of community comments that I will highlight here that will help me expand the points to whether or not Excel or liquid carbon is poppycock. So first of all, how does it work? And we have to actually talk about how it works. So I'm gonna try to skip the science lesson here. All right, so I'm gonna try to give it to you straightforward without all the sciencey stuff. First of all, it's not liquid CO2. A lot of people refer to it as that. Heck, it's not even liquid carbon. What it is that it contains a molecule that plants create during photosynthesis. Now, this is a molecule that the plants create inside of itself during the photosynthesis period. And if you don't know what photosynthesis is, I did make a video on it, and the link to the video is somewhere down below. Even though the plants make the molecule within itself, it's supposed to be highly absorbable by the plants if it comes from the outside of the plant itself, inside the water column of our tank. Now, it also contains other chemicals, and we're going to talk about that in a bit, but we're going to move on to why I don't think it works, or some of the pros and cons and arguments about why it does work and why it doesn't work, etc. So let's just tackle those. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I don't claim to be a scientist. I just know enough to get by and be really dangerous about it. That's something that I just haven't have hard data that will convince me that it's actually supposed to do what it's supposed to do. So for those people that says, well, I've used it, but it doesn't seem to work. People like Aaron, who said, I used it for a bit, but I don't really see much of the difference. Or from Reclusiarch, who says, tried it, but it didn't help me. And by the way, Reclusiarch, the emperor protects. Now, from what I read about the theory and how it's supposed to work, I don't think it actually does. And even the company can't really exactly tell you how it works. They just think it works. And for me, that's kind of a deal breaker. That's not much of an explanation about if it works or not. And even if the theory does work, even if the molecules does enter the plant system and the plant uses it for photosynthesis, thus replacing its carbon source, I just don't think that even if you drill down all the numbers, that the number is going to affect it very much. In other words, basically the contribution by using this liquid carbon is just minuscule by standards of even using a passive CO2 system. Now, there are some people that says it works for them, but I'm a little highly suspicious about that. And I really think it comes from the placebo effect. If you think about it, you got a reputable company that is marketing a bottle to you that says it does this. So what else do you have left than to believe that it does this, unless you really, really dig into it and research it? Now, let me explain why I think it's a placebo effect, and I kind of agree with Marvin here. I'm using it, but I'm also using almost everything else, so I'm not sure which of those are working its magic. Now, see what I mean? The reason why is that, look, you can actually run a really good, successful planted tank without CO2. Just make sure you get good lighting, you got lots of good fertilization, and that on its own could give you a really good result in a planted aquarium. And of course, being a good planted aquarist, you really want to give everything you can to your plants so that they grow inside your tank. Now, there's also experience. You got a beginner who's just started planted tanks, and then you got the advanced aquarist who knows, that's been through it, that knows what they're doing, that's seen stuff. They've been through the war. Well, not the war, but you know what I mean. And when I talk to advanced aquarists who are really knowledgeable in this stuff, who's been doing this for years, usually agrees with me that Excel or liquid carbon actually doesn't do anything for your plants other than become an algaecide, and we'll touch base on that in a little bit. But then you look on the other side where people just started, or people asking about it, or people that just started their journey are swearing that it does work, but how do you know it actually works compared to all the other stuff that you're feeding your tank? So it just drills back down to actual knowledge and experience. The more experience you have, the more you know that, hey, this shouldn't be working at all. There's no such thing as a magic pill. First of all, that's what you learn. There's no magic pill to growing plants. But that's my opinion on the placebo effect. Now, another reason that this actually does help plants, but it's not the way you think. As Irwin stated here, yes, plants will grow better because all of the algae spores and microorganism that gets killed on the leaves from the plants so that plants can take more nutrients and light into their cells. Now, what he's talking about here is Excel being an algaecide. A lot of us, including me, use Excel not for growing plants, but for using it as an algaecide to kill algae, to help us combat algae when the tanks get out of whack and we need that time to try to rebalance the tank. So in that case, if it's algaecide and it's cleaning all the microorganisms and all the spores, the algae spores on your leaves and stuff, giving your plants the ability to suck in more light and suck in more nutrients, then of course that's going to help the plants. So that might be another reason why Excel seems to work for people. Now there's something you do have to know when you're using Excel. It can kill certain plants. Okay, and the reason why we'll talk about later on how it is used as an algaecide, but what Jonah and Susan said here, I can't use it, got Vallisneria in both planted tanks, and it melts some of my plants. Okay, so Vallisneria is one of those plants that Excel is known to kill. It literally melts the heck out of it. So there's another reason why a lot of people don't use this, is because the type of plants want to grow is allergic to Excel. Now let's talk about using it as an algaecide, and this is important. That's the reason why it does kill plants, and maybe it seems like it's helping the plants grow. Okay, as Shane says here, I only use it as an algaecide. In this sense, I can confirm that it does work. Like I said, I've used this to fight back algae while I'm trying to rebalance my tank. And why is that so? Now, there's a component called glutaraldehyde in Excel, and I'm not pronouncing that correctly, so forgive me. Now, this stuff we usually use for disinfecting lab equipment and tables and surfaces and stuff like that. Now, for us, luckily in Excel, it's in a form that it actually not that potent where it will kill microorganisms on the surfaces of lab equipment and stuff. However, it's enough to actually kill algae. You dose it as per the bottle. Another option is creating a dip out of it. Take a bucket, put water in it, put your plants in it, and then dose it per the instructions, right? If you have like half gallon of a bucket of water, then you put half gallon worth of Excel dose into it. Let it sit for 24 hours and then change out the water and do it one more time, another 24 hours. Now I actually got this pointer from Judge Javits, and you can check out his channel, which is linked down in the description below. But he knows his planet tank stuff, so you should check him out. And again, as I mentioned already, it does kill fish if you overdose, so do not do that. It will definitely kill shrimp if you overdose. Now, there's just other easy ways to provide carbon to your plants. As AV states here, when I discovered do-it-yourself CO2, it's much more practical if done properly. Sometimes it's just easier just to do a do-it-yourself CO2 system or use a passive system or just finally break down and get into pressurized system rather than just buying bottles of something that may or not work for your tank. So in my opinion, it doesn't work. I would say no, it's poppycock. So for you, it's really up to you. If you want to try it, no one's stopping you, so go for it. And again, if you don't know anything about CO2, check out my CO2 series here. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I will see you guys in the next video.